I'm Lori Galvin, and this is my writer's dossier.
Hey, let me ask you a question. What kinds of stories are you looking for? I know it's a basic question, but
No,
people
not
want to
at
know.
all.
Yeah,
No.
What's Lori
Yeah.
want today?
I'm always looking for compelling, immersive stories that I cannot wait to get back to. And these stories need to have a distinctive voice. I want to hear the voice in my head. Read for pleasure at night before I go to bed. And that is just, a time when I'm kind of like powering down and want to curl up with something. And I think everybody has that time, whether it's on their commute or maybe they're taking a walk and they're listening to an audiobook. Anyway, that's my time and that's what I'm looking for.
Can you teach voice?
No.
Of course not.
No, I mean, I think maybe sometimes people have trouble finding their voice, so maybe you can find help with that. But, it's something so distinctive. And I see it or I don't.
Based on what you've been looking for, how much content from somebody do you have to read before you know whether or not that voice is there? I mean, 2 pages, 10 pages, 2 sentences. I mean,
Uh, Um, I have 2 summers ago, I opened something up to read, a cold query, and I had barely gotten to the end of the page, and I thought, "This is my next client," or "I want this to be my next client," and luckily she was. So I would say typically it's just a couple of paragraphs if I want to know if I want to continue reading or not.
Folks, you're joining the Writer's Dossier here in the Writer's Dossier podcast studio, Writer's Room, and Speakeasy. We're here with Lori Galvin, one of my favorite people in the business, definitely one of my
Oh,
top
yeah.
favorite agents. Lori, I want to say thank you for so many things. One of the things is your responsiveness to me has been so generous. I remember one of the first things when I started the dossier about 3 years ago, I sent you an email like, "Hey, I got this dumb idea. What do you think?" And you wrote me like a page back of this, and so thank you for that. You were one of the first people to join the
Absolutely.
agents and editors section. You've been such a great champion. I just want to say thanks for your responsiveness. And thanks for joining us
Oh, you're
today.
quite welcome. And, I appreciate and authors and other agents appreciate you for, highlighting people. It's so important.
I love doing it. But let's get back to you. Have there been cases where you really wrestled with whether or not you should take someone on or not? And if so, we know the answer is yes. Who was it?
That, yeah, that happens, but it's more when that happens, I end up not offering that person representation. And, I've had cases where I'm like, oh, there's something about this. I'm interested. And inevitably I talk it through with a colleague and they'll say, it sounds like you're really not that into it. And they're right. And I just need to say that out loud. And, I'm not going to be for everybody. Um, as much as sometimes I, think I should be, but
That's what I tell
um,
everyone.
yeah, yeah. So
Have you ever passed on anyone who had a bestseller? And what did you learn
yes,
about that?
I
Yeah.
absolutely have more than once. And any agent who tells you that they haven't, they're a lying liar. I'll say
Lying liars who lie on the
right,
dossier.
exactly. I think what I learned from that experience, and I remember the first time it happened. It was early in my agenting career, and I was momentarily mortified, but then thought back to you know my experience with it and why I didn't see the potential. And don't think I would have guided that book in the direction that it went. I think the person who did, really connected with it and I didn't. And then when it happened again, I was just like, yeah, this is going to happen. And other agents I talked to, they were like, oh yeah, like everybody has that. And, editors have that too. They'll offer on a book and they don't get it.
Sure.
There was a Google sheet a few years ago, maybe it was during COVID, and it was called like Heartbreakers Marketplace, and editors posted like the books that they lost out on.
Oh, cool. Alex Kenna is a writer from California, Washington
Oh
area,
yeah.
and she does queries. She's collected queries from like Sean Cosby and Adam Flanagan and other people. She put them up on her website. They were nice enough to share them with her. It's like, hey, this is some of the stuff that we do right, and
Mhm.
that's things that worked. So, yeah, getting a little inside baseball there is always fun.
Yeah, yeah.
How many queries do you get a week or a month or to your best of your tracking
A
ability?
month, I usually get between 4 and 500 a month. For whatever reason, this month um I got 700 or
You're
like
not always open though.
702
I mean,
or
so
something. I'm not always open,
yeah.
but I'm open a lot. And when I
Yeah.
just closed, I think yesterday,
Uh,
because and out of the 700 that I received in March, I think I only have maybe 100 or so left to go through. So
okay.
I keep, for the past like year or so, yeah, I broke my ankle last July and completely it revolutionized my system for
Oh.
queries.
Oh.
So I'm like so on top of queries now. Yeah.
Well, I really like that about you. And whenever you're open, I always share it because I know you actually respond, and I wish I could say that about everybody out there who are advertise, "Hey, I'm open." Yeah, whatever. Um, Folks out there in writer land, Lori does, and she opens and she closes, and she's got a methodical process that it really works out. So, and the submissions you're getting, what what are a couple things that writers are doing wrong?
Um, I'd say a lot of writers don't stick to the business letter formula.
Okay.
They might start out by talking about their love of reading and their childhood and always being a bookworm, which I'm pretty much going to assume anyway from anyone emailing me, and I get so many that I have to go through them quickly, so my
Yeah.
eyes are just like, "Where's the information that I need?" So, I would say, you know, I would advise authors to sort of stick to that formula, that and I think you were gonna ask me about the
Yeah,
first
like
paragraph.
yeah, yeah, that yeah, it's like they should be no more than a page. You can't squeeze in
Yeah.
another page. You got too much to say. But yeah, so up front, what do you like? And then how do you the middle and the close? Go through that,
Yeah, so,
please.
I mean, the the first paragraph is the most important to me. That's the title, the genre, the word count, the pitch, and the comps.
Okay.
I mean, that tells me so much. And then I go on to the next paragraph, which is, the more in-depth pitch or summary, and that should really only be like a paragraph or
Yeah.
two. And then I like to see a bio that maybe speaks to why that person is writing it or why they should write it, or just give me something, or talks about their commitment to writing. They're in a writing group. um you don't always have to have something published. You don't have to be in an MFA program, but anything that does, indicate your commitment to writing, I would like to see in that last paragraph.
That's it. That's a wrap. That's the whole podcast right there. People want to know how to query Lori Galvin. That's it right there. I mean, I know queries are so challenging for some people, especially ones starting out. That is the best simple advice. Just do that and whittle it down, whittle it down. Don't use 7 words when 4 will do. And Lori will get to your query. So that's some of the things that writers do wrong. What are publishers, acquisition editors, and in-house publicists doing wrong today?
Okay, what they're doing wrong. I
I
would
know I'm
like
provocative.
to I I would like um to address that as what could they be doing better. The one problem I wish could be addressed is the life cycle of a book. I wish that it could be longer. There's so much that's front loaded into that, pub week or 2 weeks. And most authors are not celebrities, and it's going to take a little time to get the word out. And, I think we've seen that with a number of books, some that are, most recently, I think The Correspondent by Virginia Evans, not a crime novel, but a very, very good um, book club novel that came out. And I think it took like maybe 8 or 9 months for it to really pop. And it was, it ended up being word of mouth. I think on Instagram, Edie Korek posted and said she was starting a book group and wanted to have Virginia Evans on as her first guest. I mean, it was just incredible to see. I don't know like how that built, but most authors, they don't have the space in the room to find their audience. And we're in a very celebrity focused culture. So, somebody's looking at the James Patterson book with Viola Davis. Um, and then they're looking at somebody, a thriller by somebody who doesn't have any name recognition. And I understand that publishers need to make money, and that's a good way to make money, with, uniting a celebrity author with a celebrity. Um, but I wish they take some of that money and use it for the authors who don't have that recognition.
Do you wish they did that to get those authors' works out there because they're just as good, in some cases
Oh,
better,
yeah,
but they go with
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Hey, got a weird question. Where do you fall in the prologue? Like, and it
It's funny,
should
I've noticed that's become a thing that people are talking about a lot. Yeah,
I mean, is it out of vogue? Does it should it just die?
I think
What do you think
I
when you
I
run
I
across
don't
that?
think prologues no, I don't think prologues should die, but I think they became a bit of a crutch for authors, and I think people just got into um, the prologue with the person being chased. And then, chapter one opens up 6 months earlier. I mean, it just feels very formulaic. And if you don't have to do that, if there's a way to tell the story without the prologue, I think you're much better off. And yeah, sometimes I'll read it and I'll be like, is there another way to do this? And I've had um because it just feels too familiar sometimes. But sometimes it also can work. So it depends on the case. So I'm not against them, but
Okay.
I wouldn't say that, every thriller certainly needs a prologue. They don't. So
Can you give me one example? Okay, you said like people use it as a crutch, and you give the example of a prologue, and then it cuts to chapter one 6 months earlier. Do you have an example of when it works?
yeah, I would have to think about that.
Okay, okay. Yes, so
Um,
so we can walk away with if your prologue works, it works. Don't cut it out just because people are talking bad about the prologue. So okay. Lori, is there a lack of good story ideas out there or good execution in storytelling? I mean, the Aquarius can get you
yeah,
excited, but the writing sucks. What do you do?
I don't think it's so much the story ideas. I think it's a lot of different pieces and they need to be in alignment. Um, so, the story needs to be immersive and fresh. Um, it needs to be able to stand on its own. The comps, they don't need to be just adjacent to a book. Like, somebody might say, oh, this book is you know, just like God of the Woods, which was one of the biggest books last year. Um, okay, it's like God of the Woods, but, how is it different? People have already read God of the Woods. So I think that that market piece is really important too. Um, getting more granular, asking about, like, the mechanics and the writing, yeah, the the voice needs to work with the the mechanics. I mean, the pacing has to be there.
Mhm.
Um, the opening needs to be inviting in some way. There needs to be a change, something that feels satisfying at the ending. It doesn't necessarily need to be Hollywood ending happy, but there needs to be some sort of satisfaction where you don't feel like you wasted your time.
Right, right, absolutely. No one wants that. Speaking of Hollywood ending, we're gonna get a little personal here with one of your clients, friend of the show, pal of mine, Mary Thorson. A
Mm.
lot of writers spend a lot of time sending out queries and hoping they even hear anything back. She had the opposite experience with you. Tell us how tell us how that relationship started and where it is now. Because we just had Mary on the
That was
podcast last
really,
month.
yeah, I love Mary.
You
Yeah,
know?
A Woman's Guide to True Crime is out now. Order your
Yes.
copy. I was eating lunch at my desk in front of my computer. I think I was scrolling Twitter. This was probably like 2019 maybe, or 2020. Somebody gave a shout out to Mary. It might have actually been Curtis Ippolito,
Okay.
who I follow and who's a crime writer.
Hmm.
And
He's
uh,
in the dossier.
they,
We know Curtis.
yep. Okay, good. And he said something about, you know, this short story is incredible. And I can't remember the publication it was in, but he posted about it. And I was like, "Oh, what's that? I've never heard of Mary Thorson." And I just went, I read the short story, um, and thought, I love her voice. I haven't read anyone quite like her, although I have told her that, she's got this kind of like Shirley Jackson, Megan Abbott, like, and she would agree with this like weirdness,
Yes.
to her. And I just loved it and bookmarked it. And later I went to, and I was very happy to see this, that she had a website, so I was able to communicate with her. I love, just a tip for writers, please have a way to communicate with you, because I don't really like DMing people on social media because a lot of times people don't read them. But Mary had a very basic site, with her bio and her short stories linked, and then she had a contact form. So I like just wrote to her and asked if she wanted to talk. And we did. I asked her about a novel, and she was working on a novel, and um, sh- she probably told you, we weren't able to sell that novel, but we sold her book of short stories. And I think with the novel, totally a timing issue. And she went on to write another novel, and we're excited, for her to finish that and get that out.
Yeah. Yeah, she was funny, on her episode, she said that you sent her the message through her website, which she never checks and doesn't even know how to get to her own website sometimes. She is wonderful. Folks, Mary Thorson, wonderful client, wonderful person. Mary and I met in Chicago a few years ago at a writers conference, and, yeah, we were glad to have her on the podcast. So, last plug for Lori Galvin here, super agent, friend of the dossier. Lori, tell people what they can expect when they contact you, when you take them on as a client, and what do you expect from them as a client?
Yeah, when we decide to work together, it's always very exciting, and I usually go through a timeline with them, of revisions. And you know most times I don't know when we'll submit. It's usually we have to get through that first edit. um and
How much do you help with that edit?
I try to help
Just
as much as I can.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really varies. There are some authors I've signed, and we might do like a light to medium edit, and then there are
Okay.
other people I've signed, and we've gone through like two solid edits, and it really um the timing really depends not just on me, but on them too. I work with a lot of people who have full-time jobs, so not everybody is able to, revise in a month. And I don't want them to either. I really want them to
All
take
right.
their time.
That's fair.
And I want them to think about this as a profession and a job, um I want them to be collaborative, and I try to be a pleasant person. I want them to be a pleasant person. And once we sell the book to a publisher, I expect, we all want to work together. They bought their book because they love their book. They want it to succeed. And yeah, I mean, that's really um it's pretty basic, I would say, of, what I'm looking for. And I
Cool.
I I do really enjoy um when an author is a good communicator and can talk about their book. Sometimes that's something that can definitely be learned, and
Sure.
that is going to make everyone's lives so much easier, and it really allows the author to promote the story the way they want, because with their own voice.
I love it. And that's a real fair back and forth between what you can do for them and what they need to do for you to hold up their end of the bargain. So, how many clients do you take on a year, you think?
um it really depends. Sometimes, I would say a handful. I always want it to be more than a handful. um I would love to sign, 10 clients a year, but it's more like maybe like on the high end around 5.
Okay.
I mean, part of that is, what I'm receiving, part of that is, my bandwidth. I also work with cookbook writers, authors, and other types of nonfiction, and they all take different, parts of my brain. So, but fiction is what I'm most focused on, I would say.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
How are people going to get in touch with you? How do we find Lori Galvin? I know you use Query Manager, but what should they do to get in touch with you or follow you or find out what you want?
Yeah, I'm on Threads, I'm on Instagram. Threads is probably, well, either one, because I think when I post to Instagram, it goes to Threads, something like that.
Right.
And I am attending Thriller Fest this year. I'll be
Oh,
doing Pitch Fest in, I think that's early May. Are you attending?
I haven't gone to Thriller Fest for the last 2 years, but I
Yeah.
went for the 2 other years, and I'm not going this year. But
Yeah.
man, you would make it worth going for. Dang.
Oh, thank you. I'll
Uh,
say that one thing I wish Thriller Fest wasn't so expensive, because I'd love to see, more people there. It
yeah.
it
Well, yeah. I
it's
mean that.
it's a
Yeah.
very high cost.
There's the entrance fee, and then if you want to do Pitch Fest, that's an extra charge, and then it's a
Yeah.
$100 just to get from the airport to the downtown and
Right,
back.
right.
So it
And
adds
and the
up. It adds
and
up.
the agents in Pitch Fest, we don't get paid. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I just
Yeah. I, I will say this about Pitch Fest, folks. If you are going to go to Thrill Fest, definitely look up Lori, find her. When I did Pitch Fest about 3 years ago, Pitch Fest was about the best thing about it. Of course, they're amazing panels and writers there, and I got to meet a lot of people, which is fantastic. But Pitch Fest was worth the extra money. And
yeah,
once you got to that threshold, let's just go the extra $150 and get into Pitch Fest, get in Lori's line,
a
head
lot of
right there.
authors have gotten signed. I mean, I've signed
Yeah,
2
Anders
clients.
Wilson got signed there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah. I signed Wanda M. Morris and Cheryl
Yep.
Hen,
There
at
you go.
2 different pitch fests.
There you
So,
go. No, we love conferences. We love getting together. We're going to Chicago here on April 11th, And like
Nice.
I said, that's where I met Mary. So, Lori, thank you so much again for everything you've done for me and the dossier, and thank you for coming on. I hope this information falls on receptive ears, and hopefully someone that is listening reaches out to you and you find that diamond in the rough, like
Oh,
exactly what
thank
you're
you
looking.
so much. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah,
Thanks for
you
having
mentioned.
me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Writer's Dossier is brought to you by Myopic Duplicity, a crime thriller anthology from Leonardo Audio that asks, do the ends ever justify the means? Get just a few stories in and you'll find out that sometimes the clearest vision hides the darkest lies. Myopic Duplicity is available now with hair-raising stories from award-winning author Rob Hart, Edgar winner Aaron Flanagan, Georgia Writer of the Year Christopher Swan, two-time Derringer winner C.W. Blackwell, and the amazing Matt Phillips, Mindy Carlson, C.B. Bernard, Wes Brown, Eric Beatner, Ash Clifton, Libby Cudmore, Victor Deonda, Terrence McCauley, M.E. Proctor, C. Matthew Smith, and Tony Wirt. Get Myopic Duplicity from leonardoaudio.com or at thewritersdossier.com and find out for yourself. Do the ends ever justify the means? The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.